There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
Garcia fought a good fight, but I thought he waited way too long in many instances, especially when he had him hurt. To be this super elite, you have to be a finisher. Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, those guys, Roy Jones. When they got you hurt, that was the end of the game. Sugar Ray especially. He had Haney ready to go, obviously, and he let him off the hook. He couldn't find him. He didn't know how to find him, and I was kind of disappointed in that. He should have had him out of there. He was ready to go. He should have had that fight over with. But he fought a good fight. He fought a very good fight. Considering. But he obviously needed the knockdowns, to capitalize and to actually win the fight. But I said before the fight, you might have seen it on my Facebook. I said, if this guy wins tonight, he's going to be an instant superstar. Like, he's going to be a star. Everybody on earth who knows about boxing is going to talk about him for 2 weeks out there. Look at, and here we are. We're talking. Here we are. Like, you're going to be talking about this guy, because I was trying to prove a point before the fight. I was trying to prove a point, because I said to somebody, if Haney, if he wins this fight, Garcia wins this fight, he's going to be a star. Like, he's going to be a huge star. And the guy kind of didn't agree with me. So I put it up on my Facebook as kind of like proof. I said, look, if he wins this fight, we're going to be talking about this guy. He's going to be inundated with autograph requests and picture requests everywhere he goes. No doubt. You're going to see his interviews everywhere. And I'm sure that's what's happening to him right now.
Well, did you think he was going to win before the fight happened?
I did not. If I had to bet, I wouldn't have picked him to win. I threw the idea out there. It wasn't like not a possibility. But Haney's looked good. Haney's a good boxer. And it just sometimes, the vibe of a fight a lot of times tells the story. Like, when I pick a fight, the winner, a lot of times the vibe is what tells me who's going to win. Certain fights, the vibe, everybody kind of knows this guy's probably going to win. This was an upset. It was definitely an upset.
Huge.
Very few people could honestly say they really thought Garcia was going to win the fight.
We all know how Ryan Garcia acted before the fight. And now when the fight is over, he and his dad have been firing off at guys like Tim Bradley and Chris Algieri and Paulie because they picked against him. I want to play a clip. It's about 30 seconds. I talked to Sean Porter yesterday, and I want to play this and then get your reaction. It's about Garcia's antics and the aftermath. So here it is.
And so when it came to Ryan Garcia and all of these things, we've now called them antics for so long. I mean, that's probably the number one word you think of when you think about, well, what do you take away from the what do you take away from the Haney versus Garcia promotion? The antics. So, but he has to understand that he put all that out there. He put all that on himself.
Right.
If you're saying that you wanted us to think these things, what are you saying? You didn't want us to say these things? We say what we think. You know what I mean? So to a degree, he has to understand that, this is the beast that you formed.
Sean Porter is 1,000,000% accurate. 100,000,000%. Sean is right. Because I was actually talking to a guy today, and it seemed like the guy got mad at me. It was kind of weird. Like, he's like, oh, he fooled all you people. You all thought you were smarter than him. And I'm like, listen, he acted crazy and we believed him. What does that mean? Like, he fooled us. What are we supposed to think? You're acting crazy and we're not supposed to think you're crazy? Congratulations. You did an excellent job of it. We're not stupid because we thought you were crazy. We were a little bit concerned because we thought you were crazy.
Right.
Don't act crazy and then tell me you're joking and then insult me because I believed you. I mean, what is that?
Yeah. The fact that they're getting mad at people for criticizing Garcia and picking against him, he did bring it on himself with his actions.
he's a top fighter. He's he's an elite fighter, but as a human being, he's a little immature. He's a little stupid, for bad lack of a better term. Look, he was on video smoking weed right after the fight. I saw the video, right?
Yeah.
He's smoking weed, and people
I
are
saw it.
telling me it's not a big deal. I go, listen, man, that's the problem with society. We're getting conditioned to think certain things aren't a big deal anymore. Of course,
Right.
it's a big deal. Of course it is. Do you want your son, your daughter, 17 years old, do you want her on Instagram smoking weed like that? Or, what are you saying here? Like, of course it's a big deal. Our champions, historically, a world boxing champion has a responsibility to have a certain type of demeanor, like what you do behind closed doors. Okay. But
Right.
in the public eye, you're representing our sport. You're representing us. Those of us who couldn't be world champions, you're representing us too. Like, this is us showing I want to show you to other people so I can say, look at Alexis Arguello, man. This is our champion. This is Alexis Arguello, this is Joe Frazier. Look at him. I can't show them a video of Ryan smoking weed. I mean, come on, man. That's just, I think it's an indication that society on a much bigger scale is accepting more and more of stuff that we shouldn't just accept so easily. And I always use that analogy. I say, would you want your 17-year-old daughter doing this? Like, whatever this guy's doing, that you say it's okay. Well, do you want your son? Do you want your daughter doing this? Because if the answer is yes, then okay. But chances are your answer is probably going to be no.
And you said, what you said is behind closed doors. It's like nowadays, there's no such thing. Everyone wants to put everything willingly. They do it willingly. There's no law that says you have to be on social media telling people all your business, but that's how society is now. There are no closed doors. Everyone wants to be out in the open. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. It's it's an indication of where our society is headed. And I deal with a lot of kids. I work with kids in the gym. Our gym, it's called Charter Oak Boxing Academy in Hartford. It's for kids. Like, adults aren't even allowed to train there between 5:30 and 7. It's just kids. And they're going to be watching, Garcia, like he's going to be the role model. And I'm going to have to work double time now to explain to them why they can't listen. Look, when I was a kid, Muhammad Ali influenced my life to such a degree that to this moment, I still live by certain things that he taught me, inadvertently, that I carry with me to this day. He helped shape me. Archie Moore, who, I don't know if you noticed, Archie Moore was a friend of mine, a good friend of mine.
I did not know that.
Archie Moore used to call my house and ask my mother how I was doing in school, right? And I have 48 handwritten letters from Archie Moore spanning from 1983 to when he died in, I believe, 1989. I have so many things from him. I have a videotape. You can see a videotape of him and I on YouTube where he introduces me to a crowd and then hugs me. And it's awesome. And I got so many lessons and advice from him through his letters that I carry with me to this day. He was a champion in and out of the ring, 100,000,000%. And I can't see how we can go from that to Ryan Garcia and the way he acts. I mean, it sucks for some people, but you have a responsibility. Like, you're a world champion. You have to carry yourself like a world champion. And we're headed down a tough spot, because I'm going to have to explain to a lot of these young kids why they shouldn't look up to this man outside of the ring.
I agree. And Garcia has said, I'm not a role model. And I remember Charles Barkley, years back, he was always saying, I'm not a role model. That you can say that, but if you're going to say that, don't put all your business out on social media. Don't do the things that Ryan Garcia has been doing. You want to do that? You don't have to put it on social media where 10 to 15 million people can see it.
Right. Charles Barkley is wrong. Charles Barkley's wrong. He's wrong. and I don't care what he says. He's wrong. And you don't want to be a role model. You are a role model.
You
You
just
are
are.
in that position whether you like it or not. And you know how I know, in every boxer at a certain level, in his area, he may not be famous, right, worldwide, but he's famous in his little area where he lived, like me, right? Like where I live, a lot of kids have, without me realizing it, I guess, looked up to me or watched me. And here's how I know. I know because now that they're 35 years old, they've sent me a message on Facebook to tell me so. To tell me that when they were 12 years old, I told them, you should stay in school and focus on this. And they remember exactly what I told them. I don't even remember it. I have no idea. Sometimes I don't even know who the kid is, but he remembers me telling him something. And I realized, like, as someone with some kind of reach, right? And it sounds weird for me to say, it's like I'm bragging, but I'm not. I'm not
No,
bragging.
not at all.
I'm just saying I have a certain amount of reach. I recognize that. So I know, for lack of a better term, I'm a role model to a certain degree. And I have a responsibility, whether I like it or not, to do the right thing in the eyes of kids who are looking up to me the same way I looked up to guys in my city. And I'll tell you on that note, to prove it, to actually prove it. So it would be 39 years ago. 39 years ago, a friend of mine, two friends of mine, told me they were going to a party and a fighter was going to be there. I won't name the fighter, but a fighter was going to be there, and I knew who the fighter was. He was well known, right? So I said, man, I would love to go. That's amazing. I get to meet this guy at a party that has nothing to do with boxing. Like no other people. Him and I would be the only two connected to boxing at this party. And I walk in, and the man is laying on the couch in a room full of people, high out of his mind. He was so high, I don't think he remembers that I was there. I don't think, if I asked him today, do you remember that conversation? I don't think he even remembers it. We talked, and I remember he could barely open his eyes. And I looked at that, and I had, kind of idolized him almost up to that moment. And it affected me, you know what I mean? Like as a kid, and I was like 17. I wasn't 10. I was 17, but I was a fan of boxing. I'm a boxer. I'm a fighter.
Right.
I want to be where this guy is. And he's
Mhm.
on a couch in this living room in front of all these people. He didn't care that all those people were there that could see him. It meant nothing to him. And I said, man, no, this can't be it. Now, some people might have said, hey, he does it, I could do it, I'll do what he does. No, but I'm lucky I knew better. So I could see how your heroes disappoint you. But like I say, with Muhammad Ali, and even, you take a guy in Hartford named, I have to shout him out, Muhammad Shabazz. He wasn't a big name fighter. He had about 25 pro fights, but that man did so many things in my presence. He's a Muslim. His name was Wayne Bodie growing up. He changed his name to Muhammad Shabazz. He became a Muslim. He did so many things in front of me that only I know about. Right? I'm the only one on earth other than him that knows about this. That proved to me like he's a role model, whether he wants to be or not. He didn't meet, man. I idolized Muhammad Shabazz, and I haven't seen him in 10 years. And I'm trying to find him. So I'm hoping somebody in Hartford can direct me to him, see where he's at. But he influenced me so heavily. So Charles Barkley's wrong. I hope somebody tells Charles Barkley. You can tweet him and tell him he's wrong.
Harvey Dock, who I think is an excellent referee. He's also, I'm always biased to anyone from Jersey because I'm from Jersey. So Harvey Dock caught a lot of flack from both sides about the job he did. What did you think about the job he did that night, Haney versus Garcia?
It's a funny thing, and I think I'm probably in the same boat as you in that I'm in the boxing game, so I know a lot of these guys. I interact with a lot of these guys, so I don't want to come across necessarily like I'm insulting a friend. Now I'm not super close with Harvey, but I was at an award show. We both got awards the same night, and he actually sat right next to me on the dais. So I talked to him, and nice guy, great guy,
Yep.
all that. However, when he was breaking them and the different things he did, I was a little disappointed. I was like, man, maybe he doesn't mean it to look this way, but it looked like he was favoring Haney a little bit. Subconsciously, maybe, I don't know, but it is what it is. It looked like, to the layman, it looked like he was favoring him. And, luckily it didn't play a role, and the fight ended the way it was supposed to, in the direction it was supposed to go. But if it didn't, that would be a huge focal point probably at this point. Good for Harvey probably that it didn't go that way.
Well, you know what else could have been a big focal point? And I rewatched the fight today, but when I watched it that night, in that 7th round, when Haney got dropped, and I mean he got dropped hard, later in that round was when they were holding and Garcia hit him on the break, and Doc just took a point off, no warning.
Right.
He took a point off. Initially, I thought, well, maybe he just doesn't want this fight to get out of control, like a Bogalata type fight. But when I watched it again, I was shocked that he took a point like that in that moment with no warning, because it gave Haney a lot of time to recover while he admonished Garcia. So it was they don't let the referees talk. So you don't know why he did it, but he did it.
And we got to wonder why they don't allow him to talk, and I don't, like I say, I like Harvey. I'm not accusing him of anything, but that was odd. And they, it's kind of weird. They don't let these guys be interviewed. It's kind of weird. We should have, there's no transparency in that regard. And I'm not very happy with that, to be honest with you.
Well, Scully got someone from another Iceman. Ryan Garcia wants better be of next. You know something? If Ryan Garcia said that, I would believe it. It wouldn't happen. But if he said it, I'd say, you know what? This guy, he probably means it.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to ask you too about that night. I guess the respect for the sport, respect for the title. Garcia came in 3 pounds over. Didn't seem like he ever intended on making weight. He had you get 2 hours after you weigh in. He could have made weight. He even tweeted or put on X. He said, why would I do that? I'm not going to be weak. Sean Porter said yesterday to me, he didn't think that 3 pounds made a big difference. Tim Bradley has been very outspoken, saying that meant a huge difference. I mean, talk about the weight first, if you think it made a difference, and then talk about what happened to having respect for a title and respect for being a champion. But the weight first. Do you think that 3 pounds made a huge difference?
Well, there's different ways to look at it. Now, I'll point one thing out that I think a lot of people are going to go, Chris Bird beat like 5 guys who outweighed him by 40 pounds, right? Yep. 40 pounds and 5 inches they had on him, and he beat them. So, there's different ways to look at it. In some ways, the weight doesn't mean a thing. Doesn't mean anything. The so-called advantage. In other ways, though, psychologically, if they made Garcia make the weight, mentally, depending how strong he is. I know guys, I'll give you an example. Some guys wouldn't, you make them lose 3 pounds and that's it. Like mentally, they're done. Now, I had Chad Dawson when he was a middleweight, right? His first big fight of his career, we fought Carl Daniels, former world champion.
I remember Carl Daniels, the
squirrel. Carl Daniels. That was a big fight at the time. Chad maybe wasn't favored, to be honest with you, at the time. The fight was at 160. Chad, the night before the weigh-in, the night before the morning of the weigh-in, he weighed 171 pounds. And he looked great. Like he looked like he could fight right then. He had to lose 11 pounds overnight. Now, granted, his first thought was he was going to go run and run it off. And I said, no, 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 no. We're not running off 11 pounds now. You might as well not even fight. I said,
Right.
we're going to lose the weight, but we're not going to traumatize your body. So we did that. And he made the weight. He fought the fight. Years later, in an interview, he said that was the best fight of his career. He stopped Carlos in the 7th round. He said that was the best fight of his career after losing 11 pounds overnight.
How did he do that overnight?
We did.
Or is it a secret?
We did in and out with the sauna, which people are afraid of the sauna, right? And I ruined myself a couple fights. But here's the thing: the sauna is bad when you're going to use it every day for weeks on end. You know, you're just going to be constantly in the sauna. That's not good. He used it for one night. It was fine. He used it. We lost water weight. I had him chew gum and spit. You can chew bubble gum and cause your mouth to salivate, and you spit and you spit. I mean, I literally lost 6.5 pounds overnight for a fight I didn't run at all. I just chewed the gum and spit in the cup. And, you know, you'd be surprised how much saliva you actually generate. So we did that, and he made the weight. But there are other guys who, if they lose the weight, you might as well not even fight, because mentally they're going to be just in terrible shape. So Garcia, he's probably one of those guys. Like, he probably figured, I'm not doing that to myself. Like, I didn't come this far, you know. But it also points to a bigger issue. Now, I'll give you a throwback just to illustrate what I'm about to say. When Archie Moore fought Rocky Marciano, and he was getting beat, and they wanted to stop it. The ref wanted to stop it after like the 8th round, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to the corner, you know, and he told them, like, oh, I'm going to stop it. And Archie Moore said, I'm a champion too. Because Archie was light heavyweight champion. He said, I'm a champion too. He said, and I love this, and I love Archie for this. He said, let me go out like one. You know that, right? You know that story.
I do.
Said, let me go out like one. And he went out and he got knocked out the next round. There you go. That's what meaning the championship meant to him. And it doesn't mean that to fighters anymore. I think it meant it to in a modern era. Vinny Pazienza. I think Vinny is the type of guy you're gonna kill him for the belt. He's not gonna give up the belt without a really, really hard time. These guys now, they give up the belt, you know, easily. Like, they don't, you know, it's just it's a different world, and it's not a good one. We're not going in a good direction, because guys are quitting in the corner, and, you know, they're giving up belts, they're relinquishing belts. It's, you know, so imagine they relinquish a belt so they don't have to fight somebody. Like, instead of fighting the guy, they relinquish the belt so they don't have to go through with the fight. That's, you know, that goes against everything that we are, that the sport is. It's just kind of crazy to me, but that's where we're headed. And I think slowly but surely, you know, the sport, it's funny, the sport is flourishing, but in a certain aspect of our sport is dying.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. That part of it is dying.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to ask you about the respect for the title, because you were never a champion, but you fought for a title. You had to make weight. I've talked to plenty of fighters who had to lose weight the day the day before the fight just to defend their belt. There was that respect for what they were doing. And I mean, Garcia, I know that the fighters want to make money. They want to be champion. And you and I both know many champions who are destitute now, but they were champions. For Garcia, he's already, if you believe what he says, he's made like $60-70 million already. Before this fight, he had a shot to be a champion. Exactly. How much does he need? Does it mean anything today to fighters to be a champion? And that's
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. We're losing that. And I'll tell you what we're losing. And I noticed the kid said he got goosebumps with the Archie Moore story. Yeah. Trust me, it gave me goosebumps too.
Yeah.
But yeah, people are giving up titles. They don't, kids today, I think, if you gave them a choice, and here's why, because they don't understand. It's not even their fault. They don't hear the story about Archie Moore. They don't understand what it means to be a champion. You know why? Because so many guys are champion today, and they're
Right.
interim champion, and they you know guys are 4-time champion, and you never heard of them. Like how do you have 4 belts? And I see guys on Facebook with 4 belts, and I'm not insulting them. I'm just saying you have 4 belts, and I never heard of you. I mean, how is that possible? I've never heard your name. I've never seen your face before. It's a different world because everybody. And somebody said this a couple years to me on the internet, and it made me laugh, but it was so true. He said, if you don't have some kind of belt today, you must suck. Like you must really suck if you have never won a belt.
I was gonna say that, and think about that, and then put it in this perspective that Ryan Garcia has never won a title. He certainly has the talent, and he could have won a title Saturday night.
People would assume he was a world champion already. And look, I can't speak for him. I'm just saying me.
Right.
If I had that kind of money, especially, I'm going for the title. Like I gotta get, that's forever. Like it's so, and that's what I mean. We're losing that. Like you think, I've always said like kids, fighters as adults, you should love your sport like you did when you played it on the playground.
Yeah.
Because that's when you loved it the most, right?
Yeah.
And when you grow up and you become a businessman and you're worried about the money and all these type of things, when you were a kid, there was nothing more important than winning, and there was nothing more important than the championship. As a young amateur, there's like in my life, there's like 3 or 4 things that I wanted more than anything in the world. I could narrow it down, right? One of them was the blue and gold jacket that you got when you won the Golden Gloves in Holyoke, Massachusetts. It was a special jacket. I would recognize it. I recognized it a champion. And when I was a kid, I saw a guy at an amusement park like 40 yards away, and I recognized the coat, and I didn't even know who he was. And I went over there. Turns out his name was Robert Snipe, and him and I are still friends to this day.
Wow.
Literally 41 years later.
Wow.
And I saw him at the amusement park, and I recognized that coat from 40 yards away because I wanted it. And I ended up getting 4 of them, right? And that was more important. We didn't fight for money. And guys, they cried over certain things, trying to win championships for no money at all, like none. The most you got was $15 for gas money from the guy in the office, right? And now they're giving up belts and relinquishing belts for the money when they have more than they're ever going to spend for the rest of their lives. It's I think we're losing that. Very rarely do you hear guys other than Vinny Paz. Vinny Paz is the only guy I've heard talk about the belt. Like he'll tell you, I would die to lose that belt, and I believe him. Like most people, I don't believe them when they say they would rather die than lose. I don't believe them at all.
Yeah.
I think if it came down to it, they would quit. But Vinny against Roy Jones, you remember Vinny got dropped with one of the most hellacious uppercuts in the history of mankind. He got hit. It looked like, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it looked like he broke his neck again.
Yeah.
He tried to get up. Do you remember that? The referee had to stop him to stop him. Like swearing at the ref, telling him to let me up. Now, I know many guys who were perceived better fighters than Vinny, better, bigger and all that. They wouldn't have got up. Roy put them down and out like that. They're staying down gladly. And Vinny was trying to get up. So he's the only guy I believe. Him and Johnny Tapia are the only modern era guys who I say they're crazy enough where they meant it. They'd rather die.
Right.
Yeah, they're crazy in that realm.
And that was a great Archie Moore story. And what people might not know, Archie did drop Rocky in that fight too. The light heavyweight champ. He dropped Rocky. Yeah, he dropped Rocky early in that fight.
You talk about Floyd Mayweather, and he was great and all that. But listen, you want to see the shoulder roll in action. Floyd hit you with it. Archie dropped you with it. He dropped Rocky with the shoulder roll. He ran Rocky right into it. Yeah.
So, Linda Woods, shout out to Linda. She's a big boxing fan. Can John clarify whether it's legal for Garcia to turn his back on Haney? That was a good segue. The weird shoulder roll position. Should Garcia have had one warning and then disqualify him? Thanks, John. John, that was not the Philly roll.
No,
That was like the
that was
Victorville, wherever he's from.
he
It
should have
was
been. It should have been pointed out, right? Like, because when he did it, I was like, "What's he doing?" Like, it almost looked like he was trying to quit at one point, you know.
yeah.
And I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'll say maybe he doesn't realize how over exaggerated he did it. He did it too much, where it looked like he almost like he was trying to quit. And I could see at one point there was even where I was almost like when the referee moved in, I was like, man, I think the referee's stopping the fight. I think he thinks Garcia's quitting. So Garcia's lucky in that regard that Harvey didn't, misinterpret what he was trying to do, because maybe he didn't realize how goofy it looked, but it didn't look like he was trying to imitate Floyd Mayweather, but I don't think he was doing a good job. He looked kind of silly doing it.
No, and he was doing that in the Duarte fight too. And I remember Derek James, I think in the post-fight interview, said, "Just don't do that." Now, Derek James, tell me what kind of job you think he did with Ryan Garcia, because the moment it was like his Angelo Dundee moment, although you couldn't really hear what he was saying before the 12th round. Garcia had dropped Haney again, and Garcia is very emotional. When he got back to the corner, he was like celebrating with his brother, and Derek sat him down and shut everyone up and got him focused for that 12th round. What kind of job do you think Derek James did in that fight?
That's a beautiful moment, and Derek deserves credit, because people don't realize, like, a trainer, it's not just making you do sit-ups and holding the pads. Feel like that's our job, but we may go through 4, 5, 6, 7 fights, and we don't have to really show who we are as trainers. But then you get that moment when something happens and you have to stand up. Well, that's what happened for him the other night. And Derek was, not lucky that it happened, but, he got the opportunity and he seized it. Because there's trainers who would have celebrated also. They
Right.
would have been like, yeah, man. They would have been influenced like, yeah, you're right. Like, we got this. But he was like, listen, it's not over. Because Derek was a fighter himself. He was a good boxer, good amateur, good pro. So he knows what he's talking about. And so yeah, he did a good job. He righted the ship. The ship was going a little off the rails there. And he said, hey, it's not over yet. Like, relax.
Were you, as a trainer, and Derek, your fighters, so you know their personalities. It's like when Angelo Dundee, before the 12th round of the Hagler fight with Sugar Ray, he said, 3 minutes, we got a new champ. He was celebrating because he knew that Sugar would respond to that.
3 minutes. And you can see literally where Ray Leonard went, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Like he knew his fighter. And that's the thing. I always tell people, you have to know your fighter.
Yeah.
And I like, there was a thing. I don't know what viral exactly means. I don't know if it went viral, but I've seen it on Instagram featured in the last year, like 4 times, where I was working the corner for Mike Oliver. And this was about 15 years ago. And I slapped Mike in the face. And it's received like thousands of comments. And I slapped him, and people, oh, you wouldn't slap me like that. And I commented one day, I said, listen, I would have slapped you. And I don't even know the guy, but some guy said, you weren't going to slap me like that. The trainer wasn't going to slap me like, I don't think he expected me to be on there. He's like, the trainer's not going to slap me like that. And I said, listen, if I knew you like I know Mike, I would have slapped you. The mouthpiece would have came flying out of your mouth. I said, I know this kid since he's 9 years old. You understand? I know what makes him tick. I couldn't slap Arthur. You know what I mean? There's certain people it wouldn't work.
You know your fighter.
I know my fighter. And not only did it work, but that was 17 years ago. To this day, including about 5 days ago, when I talked to Mike Oliver on the phone, we talk about that. And he says, Scully, man, that was cool, man. You slapped me, and because I won the fight. And Mike loved it. He loved it that I slapped him. And people were talking about how it was a bad thing. I said, man, you don't know my fighter. I know my fighter. I know who I can slap. And he was one of them. And he won the fight.